do this all day. A bunch of a-holes. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Hello and welcome to the Infinity Saga and Beyond, a MCU fan podcast. My name is Jordan Wiegand, and with me, as always, is Matt Hartgrove.
Welcome. I'm doing this on my new couch.
Oh yeah, you got a sectional.
Right? Got a sectional. So I'm sitting in the little corner seat. Feels good to be podcasting in comfort these days.
As opposed to what? Was it not comfortable on the old couch?
No.
Fair.
I can
All
actually,
right.
you can actually like sit without your feet on the ground and still have cushion on this couch. You could not do that on the old couch.
Interesting. I am in my spare bedroom at my built PC with my gaming chair. So nice and comfortable. Not as comfortable as a sectional, but it'll do for the next 3 hours. I'm just kidding. We're not going to be here for 3 hours. Who knows? My notes are long. We're talking episode 5 of Loki. It's entitled Journey into Mystery, written by Tom Kauffman, directed by Kate Herron, originally released July 7th on Disney Plus, and it ran for 49 minutes. And then guess what? We had Black Widow the next day. So pretty crazy.
Is Kate Herron I don't really look into who like directs all the episodes. Has she been doing all of them? Because I honestly only hear it when we podcast who was.
Yeah, for some of these Disney Plus shows, it's been the same director for each one. I think that changes with Miss Marvel. I think that one's having 2 pairs of directors. And maybe Hawkeye.
I was interested. She's done a great job doing the show.
She has, yeah. And it's crazy because Kate Shortland was the first, I think, woman director of a Marvel film, and we've had a few women directors in the TV shows. They've just been knocking out of the park. I wouldn't be surprised if some of these people get movies after how well they've directed, because it's just been so good. And what I want to do before we say the synopsis as well, I just want to give a little Easter egg here in the title. The title is Journey into Mystery. That was the name of a line of Marvel comics that started in the 50s. They usually had random one-off stories. When you look through the covers, you'll see stuff like vampires, zombies, other monsters like swamp monsters, all that kind of stuff. But in 1962, Thor made his first Marvel's comic appearance in Journey into Mystery number 83, and Loki made his debut in number 85. So just a fun little reference to some of the Marvel comics there.
I learn a lot when we podcast about Marvel.
Yeah, that's what we do here. We try to help educate. The synopsis: Loki tries to escape the void, a desolate purgatory, where he meets variant versions of himself. And I'll let you go first, Matt, because you kind of talked about this pre-show, but your general thoughts on episode 5, Journey into Mystery.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was I legitimately would put it smack dab in the middle of the 5 episodes in terms of ranking, if you had to have me rank them. I enjoyed seeing some of the characters back. I was happy that when they were getting pruned, I was happy that they didn't end up dead. I don't know, it's such a small thing, but I was kind of happy that there was just this area where everybody went when they got pruned, which I actually think opens up even more questions. Because now you have to wonder about beyond the pruning or beyond that section. But in comparison to the other episodes, I don't think it was as good as episodes 2 and 4. But I actually do think it's better than the first and the third episode, just because I think there's a lot more to the plot than the first and third episodes had, where those were more like background episodes. But 2 and 4 had action and comedy and plot moving that was hands down better than I think most of the shows or episodes in Marvel shows that we've had on Disney Plus. But I really enjoyed it. I thought I really liked seeing the different Lokis, and I'm sure we'll kind of get a little bit into it, or you might have some like names or bits and pieces about the different ones we saw. But it was fun to see the different Lokis and learn a little bit more about. I don't know what do they call it? It's not the end of the world, but it was like what did they
It's called
call
the Void.
land? The Void.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say, but then it didn't sound right in my head. But it was kind of fun. It was a new area that they kind of introduced that I actually don't think is some small area to really have a point on, because between the different timelines and the multiverse, there does have to be like that end of time. At some point, everything ends. And we did learn a little bit about, I think Sylvie shows how smart she is in this episode too, when she's trying to figure out what's beyond the void and where to get to the person controlling the timekeepers. So it was a good episode, but I wouldn't put it at the top, but I definitely could easily watch it multiple times and still enjoy it.
So I don't want to say I'm opposite of you, because I don't think that's the right word, but for me, this is my favorite of the 5 episodes so far. I think that this one, and you know what, watching it again right before we did this, I think that has solidified it into my top. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I think that this show has just been so excellently paced. I feel like I feel like at times that WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm not trying to drag those shows because I do love those shows, but just thinking that like, you know, like the 5th episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier was pretty much them fixing the boat, right? That was like most of that episode. And yes, that was a nice slowdown where we were able to get some character interactions, but like I feel like Loki has paced those character interactions better. And I think that when we look at this 5th episode, you look at it and you're like, okay, well, episode 6 has just got to be finding out who's behind it and the fallout of that. Like, there's nothing else that I'm like, oh, they got to fit this into the final episode. It's literally just who's behind it and do you take them down? And I think that we've had this, you know, I feel like during WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier, we were always constantly looking at what was the runtime. Like Twitter and Reddit would always be like, what's the runtime of this episode? And I feel like the runtime on Loki doesn't matter, because I feel like they pack everything in there so nicely that this 49-minute episode, I didn't feel like I was like shortchanged. You know, sometimes at WandaVision you'd be like, well, this episode's 38 minutes, and then you're like, oh, it ended on a cliffhanger. And this ends on a cliffhanger, but I'm like, it ended at a perfect time for the cliffhanger. You know, and I feel like this show has just been so well paced that and the music's been great, the direction's been great, the performances have been phenomenal, that this is, no matter how episode 6 goes, my favorite of the 3 shows. Easily. I think I can lock that in now.
I don't think, I actually don't think episode 6, even if it doesn't end with a legitimate, you know, like stopping point end to the show itself, because I think there are rumors of it going a second season, I'm not really going to be disappointed, because to me, this is the one show where I kind of want it to continue on past the show and not just end it with the show itself. Like, I want this to be what jettisons into next stages of Marvel and the upcoming movies. So I'm actually okay if this show doesn't end with like that, you know, like that finale point where you're like, oh, you know, like in Friends, they go get coffee for the last time and, you know, they move out, they have kids, Rachel comes back. Like, I don't need that kind of ending on this episode. If that was, you know, we'll talk about it, but we might not see Mobius again. And part of me is like, I think if we don't, I'm not upset about that, because I kind of like where his character was, but there also leaves you with questions and possibilities to bring him back in the future. So I think the show is pretty much, it has a solid chance to just, I don't think they can mess it up. That, I think, is the best way for me to put it. I just don't think they can.
I do think we'll see Mobius again. I think that we can almost lock in if there's 2 end credit scenes. One of them is him on a jet ski. I feel like that would be the one after the very end of the credits. If we can.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna place that bet. Let's go deeper into this journey, into the mystery. We open on a cool tracking shot that's like going all through the TVA, up the elevators, past the severed robot head of the fallen timekeeper, and then kind of into the mist, and then we're now into the void, and we're going through the void. And in this shot, we actually see Avengers Tower, but it has different letters on it. Not sure how many people noticed this, but I noticed it on my first viewing. As you're going through the Avengers, as you see Avengers Towers to the right, and I was looking at it like, oh, look, there's Avengers Tower, but I noticed the letters QENG on it. This is a reference to Kang. This is Kang Enterprises, spelled differently than Kang, but it's like almost pronounced the same. I feel like QENG would be Kang, right? It is a company in which Stark Industries sold the old Avengers Tower to in the 2015 comics, and it's founded by Mr. Gryphon, who is a version of Kang the Conqueror, who's trapped in the early 21st century, and he creates this company. So just a little fun thing. Doesn't mean he's going to show up, but just something that was pruned or reset at some point from the TVA. And we pick up where we left off in the end credit scene, where Loki is confused to where he is, and he has the 4 variants of himself: Alligator Loki, Boastful Loki, Classic Loki, and Kid Loki. And, they just kind of catch him up real quick here, that Alioth, which is the massive cloud-like creature, hunts and kills all the life in the void. So while they were getting pruned, they weren't dead immediately. They went to the void and were pretty much dead. It's pretty much anybody that's not a Loki pretty much gets killed pretty instantly in the void.
Yeah.
I just love the way Classic Loki gives this quick rundown to our Loki as well. Just like, that's Alioth, and we're his lunch, so we got to get moving.
Yeah. It was a good opening scene. I was happy they just went right into it with the continuation of the post-credit scene from the previous episode. So we didn't have to kind of sit there and wait to see what would happen with the additional Lokis. But it was kind of fun to watch them interact with each other. Mainly it was Classic Loki and Young Loki. Or is that he's called Young Loki, right?
Kid Loki or Young Loki, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he was. I was happy that they were good interactions, and it is fun to watch the different Lokis interact with each other, because even though they're different in terms of their physical appearance or maybe their style or who they all legitimately act the exact same way. They have the exact same mannerisms, the exact same way of words. And I don't know, that's just funny to see the bunch of different ones basically arguing with each other about what to do. And I think there's almost like a sense of growth though with our Loki base, I think, because you see him wanting to figure out a way to get out or a way to find Sylvie. And I just don't think that's who that Loki really was at that time. Yeah.
So Alioth, just for some background, is from the comics. He first appeared in July 1993. He is a being who broke free from the constraints of time. And in the comics, his empire is larger than Kang's empire, and is actually the reason that Kang never attempted to expand his empire into more distant time eras, and only going back as far as 2000 BC. That's per the Marvel Wiki. But here in the Void, he is just somebody that devours the pruned things. And doesn't seem like he's the same. Like, they always adapt these characters, so I don't think he has an empire at this rate, unless if you consider the Void that. But he's definitely, as we'll find out, being used as more of like a guard dog in this iteration. But just something to chew on there, that he is not just made up for the show. He is a cloud-like creature in the comics as well. As they're walking, we also see the Thanos copter in the void. Did you see this at all?
I saw it through TikToks. I honestly, I didn't know. I've never heard of it until the episode.
Yeah, it's something that's only appeared like 2 or 5 times in Marvel Comics. It's a Thanos copter. It's a reference to a comic called Spidey Super Stories number 39. That was March of 1979, in which he rode in a helicopter to attack Hellcat and steal the Cosmic Cube. Cosmic Cube is kind of like the Tesseract in the comics. So just a little fun little reference there, because there's no way we're going to get regular Thanos copter in the MCU. So just showing that that was a reality that happened at some point and was pruned is pretty cool. And we also see Mjolnir underground, and we see Throg, a frog Thor, who's trapped in a jar trying to get Mjolnir. So another fun reference there. That's a reference to Thor number 364 in February of 86. So just lots of fun references. That's what's so good about the Void. There's just so much stuff I'm sure we haven't caught that are still just in the background there.
Yeah. I actually, the frog one, I saw it and I was like, what is that? Because I that's another portion kind of Marvel that I just don't have a lot of information on. And then watching some of the TikToks I watch, they were like, we even saw Frog Thor. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I thought it was some sort of like frog-like creature, but I was like, is that like Frog Loki? And so now I know it's not Frog Loki, it's Frog Thor, which I thought was funny.
Yeah. And during all of this, we actually do get some good conversation here where Loki's getting caught up on who all of these are. With he finds out that Alligator Loki is a Loki. And I love that, somebody put it best on another podcast here that Alligator Loki, or maybe it was on a Reddit thread or something, the Alligator Loki is the Groot to classic Loki's Rocket. Like classic Loki is the one that's always kind of interpreting for him because he's able to, I guess, somehow understand alligator, but led to some good things there. Yeah, and they have Funkos coming out of Alligator Loki. And I'm like, man, maybe I need that. I don't know. But they go into Kid Loki's kingdom, I guess. He's got like a little throne room. But before we get there, we kind of go back to the TVA, and Ravonna Renslayer is telling Sylvie that she has no idea who created the TVA, but that she does know Loki was not killed. He was sent to the Void, which is a dimension at the end of time where everything the TVA prunes is dumped into, and from which nothing has returned. They also deduce that the TVA's creator is hiding in the timeline beyond the Void, where they cannot be detected, almost like hiding in apocalypses. But, that they wouldn't be found at the beginning of time because people could conceivably go there, but nobody's ever going to the Void, so that's where they must be ruling from. Sylvie wants files, and so does Renslayer. Renslayer is kind of telling Miss Minutes to get these files at the beginning of time. Now, Miss Minutes, somebody that can usually conjure things so fast, is taking forever to locate these files. She's coming up with excuses, and it's pretty clear that she is stalling for the TVA troops to arrive. Renslayer, Miss Minutes even puts up a suggestion to Renslayer saying, hey, what about the Void spacecraft or whatever? And Renslayer just kind of goes with it because it's another tactic of stalling for time. And the TVA troops finally arrive. Sylvie's kind of catching on that, hey, this shouldn't take Miss Minutes, that long to locate these files. Yeah. She's a computer hologram or something. Right? We still don't really know what she is. But I think that's the best way to explain it, is a computer hologram.
Yeah, I was actually kind of disappointed with how they were portraying Sylvie, I think, in that scene, because you can tell when Renslayer's lying. And she's not, like, I don't know if it's built into the character, but she's not good at it. Like, I'm watching the show, I can go, oh, she's lying. Like, you can tell she's lying. Or maybe that's just how she always is. But the fact that it almost seemed like she was believing it, especially when the Miss Minutes was like, oh, what about the void ship or whatever? I was like, come on, you're better, you're smarter than this. Like, you know that they're lying. Honestly, I was sitting there going, why don't you prune yourself to get to where Loki is? Because I think that would be your best bet. Which I actually ended up being right about something.
Yeah, that was funny. That she decided to take that step. It was. I don't know if I would say that she was believing it, but I mean, yeah, Renslayer is an obvious liar. I think that's a choice by the actress on how to portray when she's lying, because I think we mentioned it maybe 2 weeks ago or last week, whenever it was that Mobius was I think it was last week, finding out about the truth. And even I think it was 2 weeks ago when she was or 3 weeks ago when she was talking with Mobius as well, and she's like, oh yeah, the timekeepers are very involved in this case, and it's like when she's delivering the lines like that, you're like, okay, I know she's lying. And that's what I was telling Joy as we were sitting there. I'm like, I would not trust her right now. And then I don't think Sylvie fully did, but I think of just everything Renslayer's done, but definitely Miss Minutes made it very suspect when she's taking forever finding those files. Especially if she's like, hey, remember the spaceship void thing? And they're like, yeah. And then she's like, oh yeah, let me find that file. That'll just take another 5 minutes here.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, it just didn't, I don't know. It wasn't my favorite scene because it didn't portray the characters the same way to me that they had been the entire show. Well, mainly for Sylvie. Still kind of want to figure out more about Miss Minutes. I know we're never going to probably find out, but I'm very intrigued about what she is.
Yeah, I would like to find more about her as well. But Sylvie, like you said, prunes herself after she steals Renslayer's tempad, and we go to in the Loki's throne room, Kid Loki's throne room, I think is where we go first. Yeah. And boastful Loki is telling his story about how he got all 6 Infinity Stones, defeated the Avengers, and Alligator Loki calls BS on this. Now, boastful Loki says that Alligator Loki's Nexus event was eating the wrong neighbor's cat. I think that's a joke. I don't think that's actually what Alligator Loki's Nexus event is. But do you think boastful Loki's telling the truth here? Because I don't think so.
No, I think they kind of just put a character in because wasn't he the one that there wasn't really a lot of background on for him?
Yeah,
like,
there wasn't much.
Everybody kind of knew the other two. I think they just kind of brought in different Lokis. They created different Lokis and was just like, and if he's boastful Loki, what is he doing in that moment? He's boasting about defeating them, and maybe that's why he's called it, is that he likes to over exaggerate even more so than some other Lokis. But you kind of had to expect he probably wasn't going to play a huge part really in the entire episode, especially with the other two being well-known Loki characters within the comics. So I think they just kind of had to throw him in a scene there. And if you call him boastful, because I think we have subtitles on, and I think that's, or did they called him boastful Loki, right? Because on the subtitle it also said boastful Loki.
Yeah, that's what it is in the credits and stuff. I'm not sure. They don't. I think they ever say him a name in here.
Make a point really and be like, okay, like this is him. His name's boastful Loki. Let's give him a scene. But in reality, he's just kind of a part of the episode that we don't really have to think too much about or worry about throughout the course of the episode itself.
Yeah, I think you're right. Boastful being that he's boasting about it, but I'm not sure he's actually being truthful about it. Classic Loki tells us that he actually went through all the same events up until Infinity War, when he used a projection of himself that was so convincing that even Thanos believed it and left after killing the projection. Classic Loki disguised himself as debris and just kind of floated on until he realized that most of his issues were caused by himself, and he decides to stay in solitude on a desolate planet by himself for a long time. And it wasn't until he started missing Thor and wanting to go see if he missed him too that he starts taking steps to get off the planet that the TVA grabbed him due to that being a Nexus event. I guess he even fooled the TVA that he was dead. Kid Loki's Nexus event was killing Thor as a kid. So pretty cool. And that's probably why he's king, right? He's the only one to have killed Thor out of all these. But our Loki says he's going to go back to the TVA, and Kid Loki says to him, "You're different. Why?" And Loki actually says, "No, I'm the same." And he says, "But have you met a woman version of us?" And pretty much says that she's the one that's different. Like, she's the one that's actually fighting for something bigger than them, not just for power. Then Loki also says, if Goliath is a living thing, then it can die, and I'm going to kill Goliath, and they all laugh at him. They've all been here, like classic Loki said, like, we all tried to think of ways to get out of here. We all failed. We're all staying here. Our Loki goes to leave, but then he sees President Loki at the exit, who says, which one of us are you? And I just like our Loki's reaction of, this is a nightmare. Like, he's just running into every version of himself.
Yeah. That did make me laugh when he opens up the ceiling. It was just like, Jesus. You can just see it's just like, Jesus, really? Like, why does this got to keep happening?
Another one.
I also like that they were in a bowling alley. I picked up on them kind of like hiding out in a bowling alley pretty quickly, just from one of the like sponsors that are in bowling alleys normally. But yeah, that was funny, and it was like it was kind of interesting. I like the main Loki he looked like the Loki from, I think it was Avengers, where he looks like that at one point at the start of the movie. But I guess he was President Loki, is what someone said, or he was like,
that's what he is called. He has a pin on him that says "Vote Loki." So not sure if that's something from when he got to the Void, or if it's something that he was pruned after becoming president of, I don't know, America maybe, or I don't know what he'd be president of. But he's got the suit on, and his suit's all kind of roughed up from, I guess, all these fights and living in the Void for however long he's been there. But it is interesting. I don't know what what his Nexus event was, but we then kind of flash over to Sylvie, who has arrived, and she's in a car. That's where she wakes up at. She gets out of there, and she kind of runs into Goliath and briefly touches the smoke and starts seeing the castle that we'll see later, but it's real brief. So she knows that it can be enchanted. She didn't know it was a living thing, I don't think, until then. And then a car is coming to help, and it's Mobius. And she jumps into the car. They have some great exchanges. And then we kind of flash back to Kid Loki's room, his throne room here, and we find out that boastful Loki has betrayed the other Lokis so he could become the ruler. And he's kind of naive, I guess. Wouldn't you think that the one that's called President Loki, that leads this other group of people, would want to be the ruler over you?
I think it's just I think it was like a perfect encapsulation of like who the Lokis are.
Yeah.
Because it was just, the entire scene just seemed like backstabbing and mischief. And I think what's funny is that the one Loki that just seemed tired of it all is our Loki. He's just like, I can't do this. It's almost like he's grown as a Loki as time has gone on. Like, he's grown as a legitimate character that's more than just the typical Loki self. And I almost think that's what some of this episode was about, was showing you that he's grown out of those Loki stages that all these other people are dealing with. And like all these Lokis are kind of basically the same character. And it happens later in the episode. I know we'll get to it, but when Mobius is talking with classic Loki, and Kid Loki, where he kind of says like it's not too late to change, because honestly, for a show that's only got 5 episodes in, characters have grown really well. You know,
Yeah.
Loki's grown. You've seen Mobius grow. You saw Sylvie even. Sylvie looked worse in terms of evil than Loki did when we first met her, and now she has this incredible care for the original Loki. A little bit too much sometimes, because I'm very scared that they're gonna like kiss, and that like weirds me out. Like I don't want that to happen, but I understand, like that's the whole point of the show, that we just don't know what's gonna happen. But I don't know. I think they needed this episode also to just show us how much more this Loki has grown. Our Loki's grown compared to all the other ones, but it's also funny to see a bunch of Lokis, because you're like, this is what Lokis do. You know, they survive. They know what to do. I don't know how they do it, but they figure out a way.
Yeah. And like you said, so they're going through all this. Boastful Loki betrays the others, and then he's like, because I'm going to rule President Loki's group, and President Loki's like, well, about that, like, we're just going to take this whole area. And then that starts a fight. Alligator Loki bites off President Loki's hand, which is pretty cool. But I love, like you said, during all of this, our Loki is just sitting there shaking his head like, I can't believe this. Like, he's just so sick of it, you know? And we'll hear it from classic Loki too when they leave. But our Loki just sort of is like slowly trying to move, not make any sudden movements, dodging people. I mean, other Lokis getting thrown across the room, because President Loki's men, which I think are all like Viking Lokis, like different Lokis, start to turn on President Loki. So this just creates this whole chain event where they're all fighting each other for the throne. And classic Loki uses his illusions to conjure up another Loki, Kid Loki, Alligator Loki, and classic Loki that are fighting, while the main ones escape. And while they are escaping, classic Loki is fed up. He's like, these monsters, we never are, like we never change type of thing. And Kid Loki even says, like, even when we want to change, the TVA just prunes us here. So there's like no point in changing. And that's when our Loki says, well, that's why I'm trying to get out of here. I got to put this, TVA down. So that way we can eventually live our lives the way we want to be, like free. And then they do run into Sylvie and Mobius. After that, they see a car, and they all catch up. And this is where you were talking about Mobius doesn't know about Alligator Loki in this scene. Like, I thought that was cool. He's like, he's a Loki? I don't remember an Alligator Loki.
It was. I thought that was some of the more impressive portions of this episode. Was I really enjoyed. I think Mobius is a great character, and I really hope it's not like we're done with him in terms of just honestly the MCU itself. Like, I really don't want this show to be the only time. I don't know how easy it is to get Owen Wilson, because I know he's probably, he's famous. He's a really big name, but they got Tom Hiddleston to do a TV show. So I like to think maybe that means, there's a good shot they can, have Owen Wilson continue to play this character, because I think he's just been fantastic with the entire show.
Yeah, he's been great. And this exchange is great too, because he's like, I don't know about an Alligator Loki, so he might be, not a Loki, but playing a long game with you, but that makes him more like a Loki, because there's always the game, like within the game with you guys.
It was perfect. It was legitimately, one of the best scenes.
And Owen Wilson's just been really great in this whole series, and I'm really excited for the future, hopefully, of Mobius, if there is one for him. Whether it's season 2 of the show, or whether it's him popping up in other things. We can even see, we know he's a variant of somebody, so in the regular MCU we get to see him walking in the background somewhere. That'd be cool. Meanwhile, classic Loki wonders how Mobius can immediately switch sides to do what is right. He says, how, and you can just, turn on the thing you spent your whole life believing and defending. And that's when Mobius says it's never too late to change. This helps sets up the end of the episode for classic Loki, which is great. And then we also have Loki and Sylvie chatting outside separately. They're talking about, they're pretty much solidifying if they can really trust each other. I think Loki knows he can trust Sylvie because, people have asked him numerous times, and you trust her? And he says, she's the only one I do trust, right?
Yeah.
And I think and again, it goes back to him saying how different she is because she's not doing all of this for power. She's doing this pretty much for the better, to be able to just be herself, be a free person. While all the other Lokis, as we've seen in this throne room attack here, are doing it for their own power, even if it's in a desolate place like the Void, where there's nothing to rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alioth is somebody you can't control, and then it's just other versions of yourself that you're able to rule over that will always betray you. So yeah, he doesn't trust anybody except for her, but she has to still, I think, solidify this. She does want to know if he's okay. But she also says, and how will I know, you won't betray me at the end? And, he says this whole thing about how he's betrayed everybody he's ever cared about. And, how he realizes that that's not pretty much who he wants to be anymore. And, they say that they will, figure out what's going to go on between them later. And I know this is where you're talking about maybe next week we see them kiss and stuff.
I know. If that happens, I don't know. Maybe that's too easy of a out for them. But they're getting like super close, and sometimes it's a little weird.
Yeah, because it's like a version of yourself. But I do think, and I still don't know if it's romantic. I think maybe these two are misinterpreting it as romantic because this is just really the only people that they've ever trusted was each other. Because if Loki was really falling in love with himself just because he's a narcissist, he would love all of these Lokis that are betraying everybody as well. So I do think it is something different there. I think they might be misinterpreting it as that, when Loki's putting the moves on her with the blanket and stuff. But I think that by the end of it, they'll realize that that's not the way they want to pursue this, I would think. But, I could be wrong. Because I think Disney would also be kind of weirded out with, like, wait, you're going to have Loki love himself, But
yeah,
I think it's more of a metaphor of him finding how to love himself, but not, I don't think they'll go too romantic with it. I think there'll just be this admiration between them that even if they do kiss, I think that will be the point where they're like, you know what? I don't think it works like that.
Better.
If not, we're getting some weird self-cessed situation that we'll break down next week. We're breaking it down next week. But so they solidify their plans. They're going to figure out what's going on after they have defeated whoever is behind it. She does have the TemPad. She's going to give it to Mobius, who's going to return to the TVA and burn it all down. He asks if Classic Loki and Kid Loki and Alligator Loki would like a ride, and they say, "This is our home. We're gonna stay here." And Mobius and Loki hug, and Mobius whispers, "You're my favorite," to Sylvie, but I think Loki is thinking he's saying it to him. So pretty smooth there from Mobius.
That was cute.
Yeah. And then we get, Loki and Sylvie going to go distract Alioth so that way Sylvie can enchant him. And this is where it all kind of comes to a head. And,
yeah, I actually, something with it. I like that Sylvie kind of tells Loki, like, hey, we're going to enchant, we're going to enchant, God, why am I blanking on his name all of a sudden?
Alioth, yeah.
Alioth. And he's like, well, I don't have that power. And she's like, well, no, we all have it. And I don't know why. Like, I know that's kind of cheesy, but I actually liked that part. I liked her being like, no, like we all have the same abilities. We're all Loki. We can do this. I don't know. It's a little cheesy, but I actually thought it was like a really like nice scene at the end of it.
Yeah, I think so too. Because Loki has magic. He could learn how to enchant. That's how Sylvie just learned it. It's not like she has this ability, right? She just was
Mhm.
taught it. So, maybe if they, like they do later, hold hands and sing Kumbaya or whatever, they can figure out how to enchant Alioth. And with this is too, we get Loki going to distract Alioth. Kid Loki gives him a knife, right? And he's waving it with fire to like kind of track down Alioth, but it doesn't really work. Also, what we see in the background here is the Living Tribunal, which is a character in Marvel Comics. We see their decapitated head. Uh, uh, I'm not sure if it's supposed to just be a statue of it, but it is a head which has like 3 faces on it. And it is a vastly powerful humanoid cosmic identity who has existed as long as the universe itself. And this is from the Marvel Wiki, of course. Its function is to safeguard the multiverse from an imbalance of mystical forces. It may act to prevent one universe from amassing more power than any of the others, or upsetting the cosmic balance in some way. So, is this just a fun Easter egg, or did this living tribunal die, and that's why this one universe of the sacred timeline has all of the power? Because he's not able to oversee it and stop that from happening. So,
Ooh, that's interesting.
Could just be a fun nod. It could be that because that's his job, right? Is to make sure that.
Yeah.
So, we'll find out,
Huh.
I guess. Maybe. Just something to.
Yeah. See, these are the
something
things
cool.
I don't ever see or like know about.
Right.
I don't learn about them until you say them.
That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. That's what we're here for. But Loki fails, and then we get classic Loki returning and creating a large illusion of Asgard. Pretty much full on Asgard. He just made this projection of Asgard, which is amazing.
Yeah.
To distract
really
Alioth. Cool. And Alioth loves to, chow down on buildings and things that are not supposed to be appearing there. So he goes over there trying to eat that, and it gives Sylvie enough time to get in there and start enchanting along with Loki, like we said, holding each other's hands. We can do this together. And we get classic Loki. Just, man, one, I gotta say the costume is awesome. That's regular classic Loki look in Marvel Comics. He's doing all of this projections with his hands, and just a badass moment for classic Loki, and played so great by Richard E. Grant, by the way. He really, like, what's funny is we talked about pacing and these character moments and stuff, and this is just one episode, and classic Loki is probably my favorite of the Lokis that we've met, other than our main one, because he's just so experienced, he's powerful, and he finally realized what his glorious purpose was, as he's been mocking glorious purpose the whole episode. And what's funny is we've only known him for those 49 minutes, right? So when I'm talking about pacing, we got like great character moments with him sitting around talking with people, but also we got some great action stuff, humor with him. I mean, really, it felt like I knew him for a few weeks by the time he sacrificed himself. And part of that is the performance, part of that is the writing, but Richard E. Grant just really great as old classic Loki, and just sacrificing himself. And all the people that are saying, well, he probably did another illusion, he's actually still alive. I don't think so. They're like, oh, his hands were turning green at the end. That was him still trying to keep up. Like, he was starting to try to do it again, I think, until Alioth ate him.
That kind of thing that's kind of in the realm of what I get a little annoyed with Marvel, is people having to constantly think there's something more to the scene than what there is. No, he sacrificed himself. That's the perfect ending for that variant. That's exactly, he went from wanting to be on his own and like hiding to helping and sacrificing himself so that Loki and Sylvie could continue their enchanting thing that they were doing. There's nothing else. Like, don't look for something that isn't there. Like it I know that's like such a small thing, but it is slightly bothersome when that's constantly happening with Marvel stuff. People just can't sit there and go, that was it. Like,
Yep.
let's enjoy it, because when I hear stuff like that, I wonder, are you enjoying the show, or are you just trying to find the next big like piece that other people haven't found yet? Because I'm just like, just enjoy it. Really enjoy the show, have fun, because it's a great show. Simple as that. Like, that's it. I don't know. That's just how I am with it. Maybe it's, I know some people are going to be, there's always going to be people doing that with these shows, but they need to stop. They just need to.
I agree with you, because it's one, I think that would kind of ruin his sacrifice here if he's like, well, I just did the same thing I did against Thanos, because that's not what he learned. He learned to give up what, himself for the better of this other Loki in order for them to fulfill their bigger thing that they're doing. Like, his life now means that's what he was talking to Mobius about. Like, how do you just pretty much stop being yourself and do what's right? And that's what he, as he's walking away with Kid Loki and he sees Loki trying to distract Goliath, and he turns around and he's like, looking, he's like, no, this is it. This is when it's never too late to change. I'm going to change now. And this is my glorious purpose, was never to rule. It was to distract Goliath enough for these two Loki variants to get through and make a bigger impact than I ever could. And I think if you're just like, he shows up next week, or he shows up in season 2 and it's like, oh no, I just made another projection, that would ruin what he had learned.
And I think that almost ruins your perception of the show too, because then if it doesn't happen, sometimes
you're like, well,
like,
what happened to him? That's a loose thread. So he's dead.
Yeah, and it's like, no, he's dead. It's not, everything doesn't have to have an answer to it. Like, let them do the show the way they're supposed to do the show. And I thought that was a great scene. Honestly, it was really cool. Even I was kind of like watching it going, yeah, like, good job, classic Loki. Like, I don't know. That's a part of it I didn't expect. Like, I was sitting there going, oh crap, like, what are they going to do? Like, clearly it's not working. What's going to happen? And then all of a sudden he pops out and he comes back and he gets the projection of Asgard, which I thought was really, honestly, it was sick looking. It was really cool. And I was like, yeah, like, I don't know. I was cheering for the show. Like, I haven't been cheering for the other shows. There was never a moment where that's a moment in the theaters everybody would have been like, yeah,
they would have been losing their mind at,
yeah. So that was like, I don't know. To me, that was very Marvel movie-esque, which I think is what this show's done better than the others. They made it act as though they took a Marvel movie and put it into a TV show and had us enjoying it in that sense. And that's what you would have seen, that scene in the movie theater. Everybody would have been going nuts.
This definitely does feel the most big budget out of all of them. Like, this most, like you said, most feels like a Marvel film divided up into 6 episodes, because of just like the effects have been great, the music's been great. Like, there were some episodes in Falcon and WandaVision that you're like, well, obviously that was lower budget, right? I mean, because of just, it's a TV show, we have those constraints. But with Loki, it somehow has just been just nailing it each week. And it's great. And this was a fitting end for Richard E. Grant's classic Loki. Now, I wouldn't mind if we see Richard E. Grant again as an older Loki that's not this one at some point. That's fine. But for this one is dead. There you go. I know Loki, people then say the line, well, Loki survived. They said it in the show. Yeah, I get it. But we saw his helmet die. His helmet was the last thing left. And characters can sacrifice themselves without coming back. I don't want to see Robert Downey again. I don't want to see, Scarlett Johansson again post Endgame. Some of these deaths have to stick. in order for it to have any sort of significance and meaning. Yeah. Well, so Sylvie and Loki enchant Eliath, and it reveals a castle-like structure beyond the void, which they will walk towards, and the credits roll. And I have a few options on what this could be. So I'm gonna say these out to you here. One, it looks like it's kind of in the quantum realm. It has very similar looks and colors. And we know that the TVA was outside of time. The quantum realm, time works differently. This could be where the castle is as well in the quantum realm because of time. It was 5 hours for Scott. It was 5 years for everybody else. So it could be something like that. We have options. This could be Castle Limbo. Okay. This is Immortus's castle. Immortus is a Marvel villain that appeared, I think, like 2 issues after Kang first did. And decades later, it was revealed that Immortus is a future version of Kang. Okay, so Kang, you're going to learn, Matt, has gone by so many names. If you look up Kang on Google, you will find Immortus, you will find Rama Tut, you will find Iron Lad, and you will find Kid Immortus. Like there's so many of these. But anyway.
That is not what I need.
Pretty much Kang can appear in numerous forms, just because he's a time traveler, so there's times where he took up different identities and all this kind of stuff. It could also be the Citadel at the end of time, which seems to fit with the Void, right? He who remains is who lives there, and he was the final director of the Time Variance Authority who lived at the Citadel at the end of time, and it was the last reality of the multiverse. That one seems to fit very, very well with the Void being the end of time. It's a castle at the end of time. We're talking about a show that's featured the TVA, and if they bring it down, then he would honestly be the final director of it. So to me, that one fits 100%. Doesn't mean that's going to be what it is, but I think it fits very well. We have just a normal castle that's run by a king version of Loki. So in the trailers, we've seen Loki as king at some point. We have not seen that in the show, so some people think that this would either be King Loki and that the final boss is another Loki, and this whole show has been about defeating himself and defeating other versions of Loki, that would fit. I think thematically it does fit. Some people think that it could just be an illusion created by Kang or whoever's in there that says, hey, I can make you a king somewhere, and kind of shows them what could be. That could fit. And it could just be regular old Kang in this castle as well. Some people have speculated Dr. Doom, which I don't think will fit into this right now. But out of those 4, Matt, just all of them have to do with time travel and stuff. But what do you think is your because I'm starting to think it's either going to be King Loki because of again thematically the show being about defeating himself, becoming better versions of himself, or He Who Remains. I'm starting to think not so much Kang at this point, even though we've had numerous hints towards him. But I'm starting to think those 2 fit better.
Yeah, honestly, when you first brought up the King Loki one, I was like, that doesn't sound right. But then when you go with the whole him defeating himself or growing as himself, that sounds like it could be. I don't think that though. I don't think that's probably. I would say I don't want to say Kang though either, because that seems like the easy one, but I also think he has to be introduced at some point. So I don't know. I kind of want to go with Kang. It sounds to me that sounds like the cop out one, but also my predictions are always wrong, so that's how I know it won't be it. So then I think I should go with Kang. I want him to be the villain because he is the next big one, and a lot of the whole multiverse, from everything you've said and what I've heard other people kind of say and read about, he's basically the villain of the multiverse. He's the one conquering timelines compared to like Thanos conquering planets. So he's just, this show is setting up the multiverse. So why can't this show at the end set up Kang and kind of get the ball rolling even more so than what it already has? Because you do have the next Spider-Man coming up here in December, and I think at some point, when is Doctor Strange? Is that this year or next year?
Next year.
Next year.
I think it's May of next year. That one, and the and Thor 4 have changed dates so many times with COVID. I'm just not even sure anymore.
I think you have to introduce him at some point, and I think this would be a good time in my opinion. I think things are set up correctly where it seems too easy in a way, Kang introducing him right now, but at the same time, it just seems right, and I think that's the route they'll go. I don't know. That to me, I think that's the best way. Though I would say my second one would probably also be King Loki. If they wanted to go the route of let's show the growth of who Loki is, let's do that. But I think those would be the best possibilities.
All right, so here's our release dates, okay? I'm just going to read them all here. September 3rd is Shang-Chi. November 5th is Eternals. December 17th is Spider-Man No Way Home. Then in March of 2022 is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And in May is Thor Love and Thunder. Then in July, we get Black Panther Wakanda Forever. November is The Marvels, which is Captain Marvel 2. And February 17th of 2023 is Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which is where we know Kang is going to appear.
Mm-hmm.
So we would be about a year and a half first appearance. If they don't show him in this castle, if it is He Who Remains or King Loki, I would assume in the post-credits maybe we get just somebody saying his name, Kang, or maybe a name drop, because I don't know if they got Jonathan Majors to come in and film anything, for this show, but if they did, then yeah, we might see him. If not, I think we could even just get, we know Renslayer has a connection. If she survives, we could get her going back to him, almost like, the Chitauri going to Thanos at the end of Avengers or something. There could be ways of setting him up without seeing him as well, which I think might be the case.
Yeah. I don't know.
Let's not forget, next month we get What If, which if that ties into this, that's a multiverse story as well. So maybe if they defeat whoever is at the end of this and the TVA is destroyed, then the multiverse opens back up, and now we get What If next month. It could.
I'm intrigued because
I'm
kind of thinking What If isn't going to throw too much into.
I don't think it'll throw too much.
Yeah, I think it's more so just like a fun show that people are going to enjoy. But I don't know how much that will really play into much else.
Matt, people don't enjoy these, right? They just want their theories proven right.
That's what I want people to stop doing. No more theories. We are going to enjoy the shows. Gosh darn it! That's all I want.
You heard them. No more theories.
I want to sit there and I want to enjoy it.
Oh man, I want to ask you this question here because I think I know the answer in real life, but I want to get your opinion on this. When Kang does not show up next week, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Will Twitter, Reddit, and all those turn on Loki the way that they turned on WandaVision for not having Mephisto in it?
No, because you know why? In my personal opinion, is that I don't think WandaVision was as enjoyable as this show.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like they needed Mephisto to make it seem like there was a reason behind it. And I don't see the same thing with Loki. I don't think Kang needs to be in this show to make it a success or to make it seem worthwhile. I think there's been a lot to it in terms of just introducing characters, introducing multiverse, growing Loki's character himself. that Kang would just kind of be, the cherry on top. I think that would make people go like, yeah, like that was awesome. Like now we got Kang in here. Whereas I think Mephisto almost was needed, so people went like, okay, WandaVision was great. Like they finally brought in Mephisto, and they brought in, because they had the whole thing like the X-Men, with Quicksilver and all that other stuff. Like they needed something to show up or happen in the show that gave them, I'm trying to get what the word is. It's on the tip of my tongue. They needed something to like verify it. They needed something to, what's the word? Like it's like to satisfy what they were like their craving for what they were watching. To what is the word? They needed something to. Jordan, what is it?
I don't know. I don't know what
Usually
you're trying to say.
what the word is. Oh my god! I know what the word is, and I just can't think of what it is. I can't figure it out. They needed to validate it. They needed to be validated. That's what it was. They needed to be validated when it came to watching WandaVision. I don't think anyone has felt the need to be validated while watching Loki. They still obviously will think of different things that could happen or go like, oh yeah, this is what's happening with this character. This is legitimate. But I think with WandaVision, when Mephisto didn't appear, a lot of people did feel upset because their amazing theories and all this other stuff that directed to who Mephisto would be or him popping up didn't happen. They haven't, and in all fairness, I don't think there's been a lot of like Kang clues or like Kang breadcrumbs in this show either. Like, yeah, there's multiverse, and I think someone said
I think there's been way more Kang stuff.
If they have, maybe they haven't
Mephisto.
been as. I guess maybe they just haven't seemed as obvious to me. I guess compared to what I've heard with Kang, or maybe I'm just enjoying the show more, and I'm not looking for that big appearance by a huge Marvel villain. But I don't think people will be upset, and I would actually be upset if people were upset, because I think that would be kind of ridiculous at this point if we didn't enjoy probably one of the best Marvel shows that they've put out, and all because we didn't get to see who we wanted to see at the end instead of just enjoying it. So they better not be.
So here's what I'll say. I do think that there was more Kang references. So we had the Kang Towers, right? We had Ravonna Renslayer. We've had, he's very closely associated with the TVA and Timekeepers anyway. And then, Eliath has had run-ins with him. So I do think there's more to that than Mephisto, which literally people took from The Devil's in the Details, from Agatha saying that. Literally, they took that one line and they were like, Mephisto's coming, right? And so, yeah, I do think that people, unfortunately, I do think people will crap on this show if Kang does not appear, because I feel like that's what happens in these shows. People were upset that, Mephisto didn't appear, or that, Quicksilver wasn't Fox Quicksilver, all that kind of stuff, or that the rabbit from Agatha's place was not a big deal. And I'm like, it was just a rabbit. Though it did turn out that in the writers did say that they had a scene that they did film where the rabbit was actually some sort of demon that Agatha had. But again, we didn't, there was nothing hinting that rabbit was anything other than a rabbit in the show. It's like people almost reading too much into things that are not there. I do think there are Kang references here, but again, I just don't know if that means he actually appears. I think that maybe this is all maybe set up for when he does. We'll see, I guess. I'm excited for the finale. I'm going in thinking that this is just going to be another version of Loki in the castle, or, like I said, He Who Remains, the final director of that. If it's Kang, I'll be happy. Kang's cool. Time travel, all that kind of stuff. Enjoy that. He still fits. But it's not like these shows to just randomly be like, oh, and here we introduce this random character out of left field in the finale.
Yeah.
We haven't really had that in any of these shows, where they're just like, and the big bad is a character you haven't met yet. Like the big bad of WandaVision was Agatha. We had met her the whole time, right? So I think that is something to keep an eye on as well. But we'll see. we'll see how it goes. Super excited for this, and then for people that may not have paid attention, What If is coming out August 11th. So that's continuing the Wednesday trend. I think there was rumors that all Disney Plus shows are going to Wednesday now.
I think I read that somewhere actually, as well.
Which I don't like. Okay, I like Marvel shows being on Wednesday, but then don't make Mandalorian on Wednesdays as well. Like, because at some point these shows are going to start overlapping.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could have, like, right now I'm watching this on Wednesdays, Bad Batch on Fridays, and that's working out well. It makes me look forward to 2 different days that I'm interacting with Disney Plus, instead of me interacting with Disney Plus for 2 hours on one day. Like,
yeah.
So it would help with their server times. It would help with hyping up shows. Like, you could be like, guess what, Loki, whatever show is coming out in the fall, like Hawkeye or Miss Marvel on Wednesdays. Then on Friday, it's the Book of Boba Fett or something. Like, we don't need these shows to overlap on the same day.
No, and I think I saw the same thing you did, where I think they are gonna stick with Wednesday releases. Honestly, I think even with Loki, I don't think I've been able to watch one episode of Loki the day it's come out.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think you've watched them all on Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, it's because I think part of it, I don't mind it. I do like it. I do like the fact that it is on a different time, which is not a bad thing. But honestly, though, at the same time, during the week, Friday nights I kind of set aside. Friday nights are relaxing. I'm not going to do homework. I don't want, maybe I make plans, but to me, work already can be pretty tough during the week, where Friday night you just want to relax. Especially, I think we've even gotten to our own ages where it's like Friday nights aren't, go out and do something, or like, heck, even down here, like, rarely go to a theme park or something in Orlando. It's Friday night. Work was tough. Let me just relax for the weekend, or let me relax tonight. I'm gonna have a nice dinner, and I kind of
play some Pokemon or something.
Yeah, it's like Friday nights.
Watch some TV.
I won't do homework on it and stuff. But Monday through Thursday, I'm kind of trying to get everything done so that my weekend can be clear.
Free. Yep.
So I personally would rather the big shows be Fridays. Things like Mandalorian and Marvel, because I don't think they're really going to try to cross those two things together when it comes to the big shows. I know Bad Batch.
They may not try to, but the issue is with how many of these they're making, right? Like, we're getting Miss Marvel and Hawkeye still in this year, along with What If, and we're supposed to get Book of Boba Fett this year in December, and then we're supposed to get, Andor, Kenobi, Mando season 3. All of those are sometime in 2022, I think. And then you're going to get all the Marvel shows in 2022. She-Hulk, all the ones they've announced, Moon Knight. So at some point, something's going to have to give, and these shows are going to cross over, I think, because I don't know how else you can perfectly time all of these to, when some of them are 6 or some of them are 9 or some of them are 12 episodes. I think Andor is supposed to be 12. And you have some shows that are 6, some shows that are 9. It's at some point, I think Kenobi is going to be 4 or something. Like, these shows are going to have to overlap, and I think they should really play into that and put them on different nights on those cases, because what instead you're going to have is make me think, okay, if Mando season 3 premiere is on at the same time as Moon Knight, am I watching Mando season 3 first, or am I watching Moon Knight first? And all the people that stay up at 3 o'clock Eastern and 12 o'clock Pacific, that's going to put so much stress on your servers, because you have the people that don't like Star Wars but like Marvel, if they're staying up to watch it, right? And then you have all the people that like Marvel, maybe, or like Star Wars and not Marvel, staying up for it. Then you have the people that like both, who are going to watch both back to back, and it's just unnecessary. You could just do Wednesday and Friday, and you still get all that same traffic because people are still gonna like Mandalorian was still popular on Fridays, right? It's not like that was a unpopular show. Same thing with WandaVision and Falcon. So while I do like that Loki has changed to Wednesdays, because I think the Wednesday shows go by so fast for me because Wednesday I watch it, then I have 2 days left to work. We talk about it on Saturday, and then I have Sunday where I'm doing stuff for the weekend. Then I have 2 days of work, and then it's back on again. So it's like Wednesday's been pretty good for me. It's unfortunate that we can't get these episodes out faster instead of watching it on Friday, recording on Saturday, and then it's up a day later or whatever. But I don't know. I think at some point something's going to have to give. And I know people have probably already stopped listening at this point because we're not even talking about the show anymore. But we'll see. The finale is this Wednesday. I'm looking forward to seeing what it happens. We'll break it down over next weekend. And also what's going to be appearing on your feed soon is a Black Widow spoiler review. I guess that'll just be me, unless if you watch that and we find another time to record. You say you're going to watch it tonight, or if I get Joy in here or something. I don't know. But we will have a spoiler review of Black Widow. We'll talk all about that end credit scene that I will not make any reference to because you haven't watched it yet. And we'll see what that means for the future of the MCU. And in that case, you can follow us on Twitter at TO Infinity Saga, Facebook.com/Infinity Saga Beyond, or you can email us at marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com. And we will catch you next week where we talk episode 6. I wonder what that title is going to be. That should be fun.
I don't have that out yet.
No, they never do until it premieres, which is unfortunate. But we'll see what it is.
Do we know like a runtime or?
Nope. That's actually like the first thing I do on Wednesdays. If I can't watch it on Wednesday, I usually pull up Disney Plus, read what the title is and how long it is. And I'm like, all right, now I know how much time I need to set aside tonight and kind of get that, description. Like if this was WandaVision, it would be the events of Loki come to a head. Because I think that was what WandaVision was. It's something really like the events of WandaVision unfold. You're like, okay, that's kind of like, I kind of thought that's what the finale would be. But so hopefully, I mean, this one was a nice synopsis. Loki tries to escape the void, a desolate purgatory where he makes variant versions of himself. That pretty much summed up the whole episode. So we'll see what it is. Episode 6 next week. And we will catch you that time. Well, I guess we'll catch you next for the Black Widow. And then after that, we will catch you for the final Loki episode. We hope you have a great week. We'll see you later.